Hey everybody, and welcome back to Ready Steady Podcast, episode 43. This is the episode that comes out after the UKGE, 20th anniversary year, 20 years of UKG. Barry and I went, we saw all the stuff. Our predictions were way off. So let's bring in Barry and talk about it. Hey Barry, how you doing?
Aye, good, thank you. As I say, that if my throat doesn't quite last the whole episode, I'll be on the strepsils, but this isn't a post-con flu. Normally you come back from cons with it. I went with it this year. I was the one spreading the lurgy.
Oh no, the worst. But Barry had to go, or else the Forest Shuffle tournament wouldn't have happened, and there'd be many disappointed people.
Correct, all 32. I mean, the expo for me was pretty good this year. I don't know how you found it overall. One of the better ones, one of the worst ones. What do you think?
So, I mean, we'll get into it a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time going into the granular detail because I know a lot of people out there probably can't attend or just aren't interested in attending. But
we spoke a lot last time.
And we covered a lot of stuff last time, albeit it was sort of predictions and thoughts. And now we can tell you the reality. So very positive. Overall, very, very positive. I really, really enjoyed it. I had a great time. I made a few sort of curious observations about certain things. But, the main thing for me really is that usually it feels like a more social event. And by that, I mean, because I'm so extroverted, I often find myself sort of still at the Hilton at sort of 2 or 3 a.m., after most other people have sort of petered out and wandered off back to their hotels. But this year, it felt like the Hilton, which is normally the social hub, was come midnight just done.
Right.
And I don't know if that's because of the hotel prices, because of the train issues that we might mention, or for some other reason. But usually the Hilton is absolutely heaving until well after sort of midnight and into the small hours. But this year, come midnight, it was just a ghost town. And that was the main sort of like vibe shift for me, which I thought was a bit of a shame because I've spoken before about how much I like the social aspect of it, the open gaming aspect of it. Now, a lot of open gaming was at the NEC, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a bit. But strange. I thought it was strange how the Hilton was just sort of seemed to be much less of a focal point. Yeah.
I did find that on the Sunday. I only gamed at the Hilton on the Sunday in the afternoon, and it was empty when I went along, really. Plenty of tables. Now, sometimes you do get that in the afternoon when people are still at the show, but it did feel like people were kind of packed up and gone home, or perhaps people hadn't come because with there being no trains direct into Birmingham International, I don't know if that's kept some families home, some visitors home, and who've not managed to get along or wasn't worth it to get the bus replacement service along on the Sunday, but might be part of it.
Yeah, and what's amazing is despite the train issues, and so for those of you that don't know, the NEC is right next to Birmingham Airport, which is a tiny little airport, and that's Birmingham International, which is also the train station. So it really is this sort of like transport hub and convention center on the outside of the city, where you don't have much access to the city or anything going on there, but it's its own sort of microcosm of event space and transport hub. And the train is the main way a lot of people travel in. It makes a lot of sense, but the station was shut was it shut or just a lot of trains canceled for engineering?
It was shut. There was no trains in, all right.
Yeah, which you would have thought would be a massive hit to the convention, but they posted their figures and they're way up.
Yep, higher than we anticipated. You were going high. I was a bit more conservative, but yeah, almost 51,000 plus.
Yeah, well, I said 50,000, and then you said you balked, and I agreed. Actually, I was like, yeah, you're right. That probably is quite a step up. But look at that, they actually went over, and it did feel like a really big convention. Mm-hmm. It was, and we can talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But they've got more hall. They had more halls this year than ever before, and I personally preferred the layout of the halls to the way they used to do it. I thought this was better. What they've done is they've taken three, so there's 5 halls. Hall 5 is tickets and bring 'em by only. Hall 1 is tournaments and open play only. And then halls 2, 3, and 4 are being used for all the stands and the retail stuff. And what's nice about that is that the 3 halls they've used are all conjoined. So they can sort of open up all the walls and make it feel like one giant shape or one giant space, albeit it is a horseshoe. So you kind of have to walk around a long route around a sort of a central area, which you can cut through the center of the horseshoe is a public thoroughfare. So you can't just cut through there. But it did mean that unlike before where you could feasibly miss out on, say, Hall 4 because you couldn't easily get from 3 to 4 if they didn't open it fully up, and the journey from Hall 2 to Hall 1 required either for you to go back out around the thoroughfare or use the stairs between 1 and 2, which were locked off this year. And that's probably for the best because the stairs were a real bottleneck. They got crazy crowded. There were accessibility issues for people with mobility impairment. So it's probably best that the stairs weren't open anymore. And that meant that they could sort of have that side of Hall 2 more appropriately laid out for the stalls using that space. And it meant that, you know, if you were sort of retiring from the retail areas, you could go around the central thoroughfare to Hall 1 and partake in open gaming.
Yep. Which was, you know, almost all that I did this year. I didn't partake in any of the events. I didn't go and see any of the raffles. I didn't do any of the shows. For the most part, I was there for the gaming, and it kind of worked. That was a good amount of time and good size for things to do. I agree with the hall layout. However, I found myself walking in circles a lot. I don't know if you found that. Like, I was going looking for things. I was like, I've been here before. How have I ended up back where I was? I tried to find a copy of One for Sorrow, and I saw him very early on, and I was like, okay, I'll come back and I'll pick that up. And then I walked those halls another half dozen times, couldn't find them again.
I mean, I have to be, because our schedule's quite tight, I have to be quite targeted. But what I actually found when I was wandering was that I would do the inside. So if you think about the horseshoe as having like or like a racetrack, right? You've got like the race line, which is the inside of the track. That's where you want to be because it's the shortest distance. And then you've got the outside of the track, which is the long distance. And what I found was that I was constantly going back and forth along the inside track. So I saw everyone there, like a whole lot. And then the people who are on the outside of the track, I almost never saw if I didn't make a specific effort to go out there.
Well, one of my problems with the expo was that I spent time on the interactive map, and I ticked everywhere I wanted to go, or starred everywhere I wanted to go within the map, and then on the day I went to go and access it, it had been erased.
Yeah, that's so annoying. I didn't have that experience, but I saw your notes and I was like, that's so annoying.
Well, I wasn't the only one. I'd seen other people have it happen to. I was like, oh, I better have a look at my map, and then yeah, my map was gone as well. And I had sat down with a notepad to start making notes for where I wanted to go, and I was like, oh, this is much better, and then it failed miserably. So one thing for next year, last episode I had a list of things I'd like to have seen done better or improved or things, and then I felt there was a few things that were much better this year in terms of, like you say, the layout and the ideas, and having this sort of interactive map. I think it was there last year, but I didn't use it, and I don't think it's highlighted as, this is how you should engage with the show. But then I found that this year I was using it, and then for that to fail, I'm just like, that's really frustrating. But it's what it is. I think it went quite well this year. I think had I tried to do more, I would not have had as good a time. This year I managed to get in the open gaming, had space. I never had any real problems with getting a table. Yeah, you have to walk up and down a little bit to find something, but there was always somewhere I could have sat down or just waited for somebody to kind of finish packing up and get a seat. having to walk through the tournaments to get to the open gaming at the NEC, not that much of a problem, but
well, there was a lot of space. There were a lot of wide spaces going down to the open gaming, so you could take a slightly longer route around the tournaments, and you at least you weren't crowded.
And one last thing from me this year, I helped a couple of stands set up. So I was there from 10 o'clock Thursday morning, get your slot to get your stuff off the van, and then I was there with Arcadia tables, and then we had to build all the tables. So there was like 7-8 tables we had to build at the expo. So that took 4 hours of loading, unloading, taking things in empty boxes back, and then setting up the tables and carrying things through hall, because he was set up at Hall 4 and doing a stand at Hall 2, and to carry everything along. And then the tear down of that again at the end of the day, plus this throat. And then the Forest Shuffle tournament. I've got a lot of additional respect, or a lot of additional sympathy to some degree for the people that are actually there exhibiting. There's a lot more to it for you to come along and just make your purchases or have fun. The people that do the tournaments are giving up a lot of their time to set that up, tear that down, and to make sure other people are having fun. So got a glimpse behind the curtain this year on what's actually involved, and I'm sure the full running of the whole thing's an even greater challenge. Which I did say, but for every complaint I have, there was a lot of good things there this year, I think.
And do you think then that from your experiences this year and your education now, does your offer to volunteer and help out next year still stand? Or have you had second thoughts?
I still think that's fine, because it'll all be done beforehand. What I don't want to do, if I ever have a game there, if I ever have a stand, it's going to be the smallest stand in the world, and it's going to be the easiest setup. It's going to be boxes. There's no shelves. I won't even have a table. Right? You want to come talk to me just to save that kind of time on the setup and tear down. But yes, arranging games in a much more accessible order, a much more for people coming to it to know what's there and what's available and what's new. Using that new game function, yes, my offer still stands, and I will probably get in touch with them to help. I will probably run the Forest Shuffle tournament, or at least help run the Forest Shuffle tournament next year as well. That's going to be on a sort of a mainstay for the expo now, I think. Having spoken to Lookout Games and Asmodee, so there's new versions of Forest Shuffle coming at Essen, and there'll probably be another expansion before expo next year and stuff. So that will just continue to grow and grow. I sold out all 32 tickets. I could have sold more. There was days left. People coming in for the reserve list as the tournament was kind of setting up. So I'll do a bigger one next year, or at least help do a bigger one next year. It's good.
Cool. Yeah. A friend of mine set up a June Imperium Uprising tournament. Which he ran, and I can't remember how many people he had in the end, but I don't know if he fully sold out the tickets. I think he did, and he had some people who had flown in from Europe specifically to play in it, which is quite incredible.
Crazy talk.
Yeah, well, I caught them playing it on the Sunday, so the tournament was on Saturday. I caught them playing June Imperium on Sunday, and he was like, "These people are so good." We need to figure out how to be better. But,
I'll give a shout out to Forest Shuffle power couple, Anna and Andy D. They came first and second in the tournament. They had had the kids with them. They weren't playing, but they sat to the side playing Switch for a few hours, and they took them the tournament first and second. So I don't know how often they're playing at home, but it must be quite a lot.
Yeah, especially to match with Barry, who gets his reps in on PGA.
I didn't play in the end. By the time I was set up, it became quite evident that not everybody was quite as over the rules as they might needed to be for me to be hands off running it. With the Exmoor expansion, which was brand new physically. If you hadn't played it on Board Game Arena, you had no idea what the cards were. there's one new mechanism. It's not that much, but just had to be running it, making sure everybody was in the right seats and doing the setup and everything right. You can set up the first round, but then you're relying on people managing the setup and tear down in between rounds. So I just had to be the tournament organizer, and as I said, there was a reserve list, so my space was easily filled.
Very good. Well, congratulations on the success, and look forward to hearing more next year about where it goes from here.
Excellent. But did play a lot of games, a whole lot of games. I presume you were the same.
Well, I demoed a lot, or I demoed a reasonable amount, and then I didn't actually get to sort of sit down and open game that much, to be honest. I only got to play a small number, and we did show up on the Thursday, and we played in open gaming till they closed the hall, which I think was at like it was like 9 or 10 p.m. I think they closed it on Thursday. They were open till midnight for the main 2 days of the convention, Friday, Saturday, which was a welcome change because they have been kicking people out at 11 in previous years, and that's a bit too early. And this might have contributed to why the Hilton saw less use. But on the Thursday, of course, we went across the Hilton, and they had all these huge signs up saying "No gaming."
No games.
Yeah, and we were reflecting on why that might be. I mean, I think they've always had a no games policy on the Thursday, but they've not ever bothered to sort of enforce it. And I do wonder what would happen if you did start gaming. I also wonder what happens if people who are staying in the hotel want to game,
Yeah.
And is the policy to just keep out sort of people who are not staying there, but who've come to play? It seems like such a strange policy.
Well, it's for the other patrons, right? So you can game, but you can't game at the bar.
Right, but there's no other space on Thursday.
Correct, but there's no other space on Thursday.
There's no other alternate space. So yes, the no gaming at the bar policy is the full weekend. I mean, I don't know how many events they've got. They do seem to have concurrent events. So to be fair to them, maybe it is
usually
just
it's the Masonic Wives.
Okay.
That are there the same weekend as the Expo normally. Good chat with them.
Yeah, have you been catching up? Do you have some insights?
Yeah. Well, as I say, they've been there at least notably in the last 4 or 5 years at the same time as the Expo. So it could well be that they were there before the Expo was there. I don't really know how long they've been doing it.
But suffice to say, my point was simply that I missed out on getting some reps in for open gaming on Thursday, which was a pity because it felt like we're so busy the whole rest of the time, just absolutely run off my feet. But, we felt like a good use of the time, and we got to demo a bunch of stuff, and we got to see some new and exciting things. There were lots of publishers there, which was very exciting. I got to pick up some stuff. I spent the vast majority of my money on Flick Fleet, which, is the little dexterity space game, which I love. And I'm very happy to support them because it's just 2 guys making it in their garage. And, I like the game a lot. And so that's great. And I also went and bought a bunch of Null Signal cards because I also like them and their non-profit model. Just enthusiastic about the game.
Yep, for Netrunner. Still going. I've never, Project Nisei and Null Signal never actually got involved post FFG. Although I have played some other people's.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a huge scene up here in Sheffield. Like that is absolutely massive.
It's still going on. As far as I'm aware, there's still people playing every Tuesday at the old Thames side here in London town. But I never go down anymore. Very sad.
Well, it's just despite our inability to keep up with it, and I was never in it in the way you were, but in a way I have all these cards simply because I like the company and their model and their enthusiasm for the game, and I love the game. I just don't have the time to engage with it in the way I would like to. But I have this sort of fantasy that I will get to play a bunch of games at some point. But I think it's just incredible how this game is just so popular and has such a dedicated fan base, and then, you know, it's sort of allowed to go out of print in this way. And it's sort of just the strange enigma of the structure of things, you know, what is and isn't around, getting reprinted, getting picked up, you know, and what's sort of
licensing issues there, right? Preventing some of that.
Well, that can't be the whole thing, right? Because, I mean, I don't know the legal specifics.
It was never revealed, and I'm sure some people know exactly why Netrunner died immediately after the second core set, but maybe we'll never know. Or maybe there'll be a documentary in a few years' time.
Yep, maybe. Who knows? Maybe we can make it. We should find out. Let's get our investigative hats on.
If you want to see more investigative journalism on the channel, let us know.
All right, and with that in mind, let's get on to some games.
So I mean, I've got a huge list. Things that I demoed, things that I bought and played, things that I sat down for a game off, things that people just kind of showed me. Maybe didn't get a full demo off. A couple of games that ran out of time or didn't really need a full playthrough to kind of get an idea of. But my gaming did start on that Thursday night. Sat down with Catan on the road, the new card game version of Catan. If you've not seen it, maybe you're familiar with Monopoly Deal. So as Monopoly Deal is to Monopoly, Catan on the road very much is to Catan. It is a much quicker version. You're guaranteed a resource every turn, so no more dice rolling for what you need.
Good. Dice aren't fun.
Well, dice can be fun, but not in Catan. And then you're a straight race to 7 victory points. You'll get it for longest road, most biggest army, and building up your villages or your settlements, your cities and your metropolises. You can only do 1 trade a turn, so that keeps that going at a pace. If you make a swap with somebody, that's you done. You can't just keep chatting for an hour on the negotiation, so things move quickly. It is a 45-minute game, even at 4 players, and it gave a very similar feeling to Catan in that 45 minutes, and didn't feel laborious to go through. I didn't feel bad about the game. I don't know it's a particularly good game. I would argue that the comparison to Monopoly Deal is very apt. Like, it's the same. You still wouldn't. I like Monopoly Deal. I've played hundreds of games of Monopoly Deal, but is it a good game, or is it just an okay game that's good at time? I don't know. Anyway, so I started with that, and then I went into the press section and was very quickly given a game called Machu Pichu. Did you get a copy of that at all?
I did not pick up Machu Picchu, actually. Unfortunately, I missed out.
No, you did miss out. It was given away, and this seems to be an ongoing thing, or a new thing, that I first noticed last year when Osprey were giving away Tacta and you could get some Flip 7s. This year picked up Down Up. Might talk about it in a little bit. But Machu Picchu from Spike Games. There's no other information. I'm assuming it's just a one-man band, both on art and design and publishing. But it is a double-style snap game. So you've got pictures of llamas with hats and scarves and necklaces and sunglasses. On your turn, you'll flip over a card, and it will have Machu P on the. You have to say that out loud at the top of the card, and then you're looking for a match with another player at the table to hit snap before they do, and it's a card shedding game. You want to get rid of all your cards. If you snap them, they have to take your cards and their cards to the bottom of their stack, and you just keep going. Now the one twist is Machu P. If Machu P comes out, then everybody can shout chew for a snap, and then whoever's last to do it has to pick up all the stacks. and that's it. It looks nice. It's a fun little family weight game. Nothing you're going to be right. You might come back to it every now and again, but I don't think it's going to necessarily be your opening party game of the evening. But it was pleasant enough, and I can't argue with free.
Yeah, and it was free.
What was the first thing you got to play?
Now I'm trying to remember what we started off with. I think one of our earliest, actually, do you know, one, it's not on my list here, but one of the earliest demos we did get to do was CGE. So we went to have a look at Drillers, which you've played a whole bunch of. So I think I'll probably
A couple of games.
In testing. It looks nice.
Yeah.
It's sort of deck building, action efficiency. They've described it as a push your luck game. I didn't get a good sense of where the push your luck element came in. So maybe that's...
Yeah, so the thoughts on that, you as you dig down, if you're not able to kind of get back up with your fuel and whatnot, then you start taking damage, and you can only take 1 damage a turn. And you know, when you come up to buy stuff and when you want to drill down to get the gems to go back, there is a small push your luck element. I think you'll always be able to manage somehow. I don't think you can end your game trapped under the under the earth. But it's a timing more than push your luck, I would say. But you start taking damage, maybe you lose your movement cards, and you have to repair those before you can get back up or something like this. There is a small push your luck.
Right. I love push your luck. Big fan of push your luck. And so I just think that the sort of the instinct to fight the urge to gamble is so enjoyable. I love that tension. Yeah. So, you know, I was interested in that. Unfortunately, not as prevalent, but then it's a deck builder. I do like deck building. It's got lots of little elements of sort of mining, first come, first served stuff. So keen to see more of that at Essen. Oftentimes we get to table the CGE games at Essen because they're very good about their review copies. So hopefully we'll get a chance to play this at Essen Spiel when it comes out. It's designed by Roman Bedoff, who I don't think has done anything else, and Adam Spanel. These are horrible pronunciations. I'm so sorry. Who I know did Project L, which was the sort of super chill Tetris type game.
Yep.
And you've got art on here by who I believe are the sort of CG in-house team, because a lot of them have done this sort of stuff. So Andre Herdina, and I'm struggling to read my notes because I'm going blind.
Jiří Kuz, Jiří Mikovic, and Jacob Pulitzer.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Barry. Right. But actually what I really wanted to talk about was that we got to see Codenames Critical Role. Did you look at that?
No, I wasn't. I had limited interest in more Codenames words.
Yeah. So, so this was the thing, right? Because I also did not set up to look at this, right? I just went to the CG press meeting and they showed us the 2 games and I was like, yeah, okay. So it's Codenames with Critical Role and stuff. And I enjoy what I know of Critical Role, but I'm hardly what you would call a critter. So, you know, I'm like, I don't know how esoteric the references to Exandria are going to get, but probably this is just not for me or people I know.
Yeah.
It's an entirely different thing. It's not that. It's not just Codenames with Critical Role names. And in fact, what they've done is they've offered expansion packs, which offer more esoteric words, but the words in the main box are much more generic. And where the Critical Role element comes in is that the game is cooperative, and it's a campaign-based game that you play with your team. And one of you is functionally the dungeon master, who is the code giver, and the other players are heroes. And you always play with the same number of heroes. So a group of players, like you play with 3 heroes. So a group of players are managing the 3 heroes, and one player is being the dungeon master. And each game in the campaign, you can swap the roles around as you like. And you're still playing Codenames, so you're trying to give out these code words. But now what you've got, in addition to the good words, which I believe are awarding you gold pieces to spend on items and things, you've still got the assassin word that's going to wipe you out. And now you've got this concept of like monster words. I think you have to fight the monster words for experience or something like that. I don't know. But there's also scenario words that are like these 2 words that are scenario specific. So each level of the campaign. It'll tell you what those two words do in this particular context. But you're still setting up the grid at random, so it might be more or less difficult. And I think there are 3 campaigns in the core box. Each one's about 6 levels. And you're sort of, I don't think they follow the campaigns from Exandria. I know that it contains characters from Ex Machina and the Mighty Nine, and I think other characters. I'm not that familiar with it. But the 3 campaigns, I think, are sort of parallel to the events of the official campaigns. So they're sort of like a fun side quest, so to speak. But it was substantially more different to what Codenames is than I expected it to be.
Okay, yep.
And so I wanted to let people know that if you were sort of interested in the idea of a sort of fantasy adventure cooperative variant of Codenames, definitely take a look at this in more detail, because there's a lot more going on in there than just Codenames with different words.
Gotcha. Yeah, like I picked up, so I'm a Decrypto over Codenames. I think some other people might be out there. And I picked up Triangulation this year at the Expo, which is a game probably much more similar to Decrypto, where you've got the clue giver. They have to give 3 words relating to their clue. But then the other team get to see 2 of them, and if they can guess the word before your team does, they get the points. So you need 3 words that any combination of the 2 of them make no sense, but all 3 people can guess. So I've not had a chance to play that yet, but that was they were in the same wheelhouse for me. Like I was like, well, I don't really need more Codename stuff. I've got pictures, I've got Codenames, I've got the board game expansion words. I went for Triangulation instead, but yeah, I've not managed to have a play of it yet, although I am excited to do so. But on the Thursday night for me, the press event, I managed to see a few games at the tables and get a chance to play a couple of rounds of a couple of things, which is quite good. One game you'll probably not see too much chat about. I think it was out last year, but it might have only been out in French. It's Difference Asterix, which I spoke to you about. So Christopher Bollinger, who's done Archipelago, Earth Reborn, Dungeon Twister,
and published Rise and Fall, which we played on the channel, if you want to go check that out.
This is probably a very different game, published by Gigamic.
Did we play Rise and Fall on the channel? Maybe we just reviewed it.
I don't know.
It might just be a review. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's fine. So the game is just 25 copies of the same 4 pictures on cards. You get a stack of one of these pictures, or each player gets a stack of one of these pictures, and then there's one of the pictures put in the middle. On its own, doesn't sound very fun. But every picture has 2 differences. So you've all got the same image, apart from 2 differences. And what you have to do is find the 2 differences on your card from the one that's in the middle, and then you can get rid of that card, and then the first person to get to the bottom of their stack wins. So just spot the difference 4 times, but there's all this sort of, I presume, some sort of algorithmic removal of different elements on each image, or maybe just somebody's deleted 2 from everything on different layers on Photoshop or whatever. It was surprisingly difficult to find the 2 differences on just even 3 different cards. It's like, okay, there's one on that one, there's one on that one, there's one on that one, and then it's like, well, where's the second one on any one of these? And yeah, good time just playing that quickly. Hard to recommend as a keeper forever. Definitely one to play at a board game cafe or something. Or if you got kids, kids will probably love that as well. One you could definitely play with them as long as they can do spot the difference.
Very low rules overhead.
Very low, yeah. Just find the differences once you've got 2 next card. It was good. And then a couple of other sort of very light games I saw that evening. Again, just that, before I spoke to you, it was 100 Ways to Die, which is made by Time Quest, or published by Time Quest. Now, they'd flown in like 2 copies of 100 Ways to Die and Hot Topic. It wasn't published yet. It wasn't ready yet. You couldn't buy it there. And TimeQuest seemed to just do distribution or sales of escape room games, mostly. So they have all the unlocks and the murder mysteries and those kind of things. But they've made these games themselves and brought it in. So 100 Ways to Die. It's a voting game where death is coming for you. There's this cute little chibi death figure, and it's coming for you in a weird and wonderful way. So let's say a piano is about to fall on your head, and then there's a whole deck filled with items. You flip over an item, and everybody has to come up with a way that item is going to save them from dying to this Grim Reaper. So let's say this piano falling on your head, and you've got an umbrella. So you would tell me how you're using an umbrella to avoid getting squashed by this piano. And maybe, but it's actually a 007 Q gadget, and it has the blades are whirring and it will chop the piano up or whatever. Anyway, once everybody's come up with whatever silly reasons they have for being able to avoid their untimely demise, goes to a vote, and whoever gets the most votes, unfortunately, does not manage to escape death and get squashed. At which point they flip over the card, and then they've got to forget what you do when you're being squashed, but you're not out. You can continue playing, but basically last man standing or most points for the round kind of thing. You can still influence things when you're a ghost, but I can't remember exactly what it was. Anyway, if that's the kind of thing you might like, it was fun enough at least once. Everybody telling the story, but I don't know if it's the sort of game that I would play for hours on end coming up with these kind of stories, but it was decent. And the other game they were demoing was Hot Topic. So this is a category game. You have 10 gems, and there are a bunch of cards, and so 5 categories out at a time. You can spend your gems on what you think you know best. So boy bands, capitals, countries, or car brands, something like that. So maybe I put 3 on boy bands and 3 on countries and 2 on the rest. And then when it comes to my turn, I reach into a bag to pull out a Scrabble tile with a letter on it, and then I have to come up with answers to those categories beginning with that letter. So if I get a Z, which did happen, good luck getting any of those gems back. But if you get, an R or an S or something, and you think, okay, well, I know these ones, so types of food, sausage, semolina, whatever, you can get those. And so each one you get right, you get your gem back and a point, and then you track the points from the outside. So you play a number of rounds until somebody gets to 50 points or whatever. Both of those were fun. Are they the kind of games that I normally play and buy? No, but it was a fun evening amongst the other games that I was demoing there.
Very good, very nice. Yeah, I didn't. I most of the stuff we saw at the press event we uploaded, or that we saw that interested us, we uploaded shorts of. So if you haven't checked out the shorts that went up on the YouTube channel and the social media and the TikTok, you can go and take a look at those. And it's a lot of sort of familiar faces. We got sort of a very speedy run through of Crab Rage by Osprey Games, which is some kind of head-to-head crab fighting game, which is not available to buy yet. No. But I'm going to stick to the ones where I got to sit down and actually had a bit more play of, and I didn't do as many light ones as Barry, unfortunately, so mine are a bit heavier.
Big games. Yeah.
Well, speaking of not big games, I didn't just demo Spokes, but I actually got given a review copy, which was very nice. That was by Mark, who runs the publishing company Radical 8 Games. And I'd arranged to go and demo Spokes, and we did. We got to play
rest of the Wii.
A lap. Yeah. Well, yeah.
I was supposed to go and play Spokes, but I thought it was 2.5 hours after we were
we got the timing wrong. But I was given a review copy to go away and play, and we did play it later that evening. And it's kind of amazing to me playing the full 3 laps in the evening that we didn't finish it that morning.
Really?
It says 30 minutes on the box. It could be less. Mm-hmm. It is very unlikely to be more. So Spokes is it's a very simple game, right? It is thematically, it's really nice. You're the cyclists going around the aerodrome, and you've got you've got crisscross matchsticks all laid out across it. They are in 6 colors, and what you're doing is you're building these routes, right? So you jump over your little wooden cylinder. You jump over the matchsticks, and you can keep jumping over them until as long as they're all the same color. And the real actual core of the puzzle, because the routes are quite apparent, you just look at the board and you see the routes. So the real challenge is actually managing to have the sticks you want when you need them, because you've got the spokes of your bike, and that's the action selection mechanism. You've got a little cube that you can move up to 3 steps around these spokes on your bike wheel. And the last spoke you jumped over is the one you play. And then you swap that with any spoke on the map wherever you want. And the spoke that you put out is the color that you then move on with your piece. And that's it. I've taught you literally the whole game. You do 3 laps around the board, and then you're done. Well, that's not true. There's one tiny little extra thing about if you land on someone, you can have a wild move. But don't worry about that. I mean, but the point is that sort of as the board is developed, because it's random, there might be some incredible paths from the outset. There might be no incredible paths, but people will sort of build these incredible paths, and then other people will be trying to pick up spokes to make sure that they can use them. And you want to make sure that when you land in a position where you can use the long paths, you have the spoke ready to go, right? And that's the core challenge of the game, really, is making sure that you have the spokes lined up and that you can access them, right? Like, it's almost not worth going, oh, I need to get a blue one because because the maximum number of steps around your wheel is half the wheel, you will have to functionally just skip turns, right? Like if you need a blue one now and you swap out for a blue one this round, you won't be able to get to it for 2 more rounds because of the maximum number of steps you can take, which means you needed to know what you would need in 2 rounds now. So there's a little bit of planning ahead to set these things up, right? And so that is an interesting puzzle. Now, the game is really, really short, and there's not much you can do about someone who has planned effectively or gotten away with it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you could theoretically try to sabotage them by swapping out the spokes on the path they want to use with the spokes you've got, but in practice, at least, we didn't find that that was especially viable strategically. So I think it's a wonderfully interesting system, and players I played with actually complained about the setup, which I thought was a wild thing to complain about, because you functionally just tip all the spokes out onto the board and then just jimmy it around till they all fall into the holes. They were like, this is as bad as the original, hey, that's my fish. No, it's not. That was way worse. That was so bad. Yeah. And that game's even quicker, and that's why the new version has the board that comes in the box. I thought that part of it was fine. I'm just not sure if there's quite enough puzzle or crunch in the game to make it worth the cost. Yeah. If it were a 15 to 20 pound game, I don't think I would have too much trouble recommending this. The fact that it's the price of, it's pushing up towards a more middleweight game in terms of cost, it's hard to recommend because it really is very snappy, and I'm not sure how long the puzzle is going to really remain compelling, because there's not a whole lot you can do about catching a runaway leader or, and to an extent, it is your fault, right? Like they've probably played a couple of moves early on better than you, but the competition, it's 3 laps, and it needs to be 3 laps because the laps can be so fast, but I'm also not sure if it needs to be 3 laps, if that makes sense. So interesting system, interesting surprisingly crunchy given the rules overhead and the amount of stuff going on. Zero maths, which I really appreciate, all visual. But I'm just not sure there's quite enough there to justify the price tag. And, you know, you can kind of see where the money went on all the wooden pieces. There's lots of wooden pieces in the box, but I just don't think it's going to remain compelling long enough to really justify the cost either. And final point is just that I think that there might be some accessibility issues with the colors of the spokes if you are someone who suffers from color blindness. I don't know because I didn't get to play with anyone who has suffers from color blindness, but it was just something I observed.
Yeah, they are quite neon. They're all quite the same hue, which I think's more of a problem.
Well, there's also a purple one and a blue one, right? And there's a green one and a red one, although I think they might be more distinct than the purple and the blue.
Well, I did swing by on Sunday and had a quick go, but I didn't play a game of it. It was on my list for picking up, but as things shook out, there's too much on and too many other things to be to be doing to do it. I mean, I could have made it on the Saturday had I realised the time, but unfortunately did not get to play a full 3-lapper.
Well, that was Spokes, designed by Bert Hardiman. The artist is called Russembelli, and the publisher is Radical 8 Games.
Well, I played a lot of very small and light games overall. Either full games, there are a few full games and a few rounds. One of the first ones I sat down to went to Ares Games, who do War of the Ring and Viking Route was there. This year available to buy. Didn't play it this year, but played it last year. And I played Tedoku. I don't know if you've seen this, but it is a game by Matteo Ceresa. And I thought I would like this more than I did. You're basically flipping over a card with a shape on it and flipping over a card with a number or pattern on it, and that dictates where within a Sudoku grid you can put that shape. So one of the squares has to be is Tetris shapes, and one of the squares has to be in column C or row C or column 4 or within the central Sudoku grid bit. Right? And you're going to score points for completing rows, completing boxes, and completing columns, and just add them up at the end. But it was fine. It ended too quickly. The decision space was a little uninteresting in the grand scheme of things. It really needed some sort of twist that it didn't have. Didn't help that I lost because of this. but I lost a bit. I didn't fill in a box, and you get like 3 points for a box. I got a few lines, but you know it's a very low scoring game anyway. But it just felt like it should maybe end when somebody couldn't play, or I had all the spaces for the shapes, but they just never came up, and I just felt like, well, that's not necessarily my fault. A little bit too random, and then there wasn't enough. It didn't go long enough to be worthwhile. But that is quite a cheap game. But a couple other things played. Circadia. I don't know if you saw this one at all. So this was the newer game by Hisashi Hayashi, or Hisashi Hayashi. Bombbusters, trains, spoken about before. Published by Synapses Games, and very nice art. So this art's by Maria Nacheva. Sort of a I don't even know how to describe the art on this one, to be honest. Like it's unfortunately I'm not smart enough to know different styles of art, but it's very nice anyway. And this was a set collection type game. You would play all the threes from your hand. There's those 3 different colours. You play all the threes from your hand, trying to make numbers of sets, so you can only play 4s on 3s, 5s on 4s, those kind of things, right? It also has to be a higher number until you cash in 4 blues for a card that's in the tableau, and then you score those points. So I could play a 1, or I could play all my 1s, and there's more 1s and 2s and more 2s and 3s, triangle deck style, into 3 different columns, and I could play a blue one and a grey one and a green one, but then I would only get to take one card back into my hand to play next time. If I played a 5, I'd get to pick up all 5 cards from the river, but then I couldn't put anything on top of the 5, apart from another 5. So the timing of getting your cards down, with refilling your hand, with scoring what was available in the tableau, was the puzzle. And it was pleasant enough, but the game, again, it mostly played itself. You knew what you wanted. Well, there's 2 3s there, so I'm going to play my 2s out, and then I pick up the 3s, and then I play the 3s, and I'm going to pick up the 4s. And you then just kind of cash them in when you saw an opportunity for, well, now I've got 6 blues out, so I'm going to get the 6 blue, and I'm not going to bother going for the 7 blue. I'll start a new column to get the 3 grey, that kind of thing. So it was pleasant, but it wasn't great. Not on the same deal, not on the same level as Bombbusters, let's put it that way.
Yeah, or his sort of little known one called Numbers. Did you ever play that?
I want to say I've never played it. No.
Tiny little box. It's very strange. It's sort of about like gambling on what other people are going to do, and by picking numbers, and you kind of have to like get through all your numbers, and you sort of get some clues about what other people might pick based on what numbers they've already got, and you're trying to cross off the numbers 0 to 10. It's sort of like, it's a strange puzzle, but it's a lot of fun. We've enjoyed that. And it's cheap and small.
Yeah. Well, this was medium-sized box. Still small box, but not micro game. Speaking of micro games, I played Le Chocolat. Have you seen that from All Play? So Machu is the designer there. And it is a game where there's little tiles of chocolate. You build them into a 7x5 grid, and basically you split them apart wherever you want in a straight line. And if you're ever left with 3 or less, you can claim those bits of chocolate. And on those bits of chocolate, there might be cranberries or nuts, but most of them are face down, right? So most of them you don't know what's on the back of them. And then each round, there's a different scoring card. So now nuts are worth 2 points, cranberries are worth 1 point, pistachios are worth -5, that kind of thing. And that's really the whole game. Like, you just split them. It's 2-player only. You split them. If you got 3, you claim those. You don't know what's on the other side, so you don't know what you're scoring. You take the ones that are face up that do score you points, and then you just see what you got at the end. It was not unfun, but you wouldn't play it regularly. Or at least I wouldn't play it regularly. Like, it was, okay, yeah, that was fun for 2 minutes, but there's no decisions. And I don't know what I'm getting, so what's the point in playing? Like, more of your points come from the things that are on the face down tiles than on the face up tiles. So getting a good set of face up tiles doesn't really help you, or may not help you. It is just,
yeah, part of me wonders
random.
if maybe that was demoed incorrectly. Almost.
What is that? Do you feel like that's not how it plays?
I feel like that. Well, All Play are quite good at sort of generally picking quite solid stuff, aren't they? It seems like some odd decisions.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say they've got a flawless record.
No, that's true.
And I can see people enjoying this just for what it is. It's fairly brainless overall.
But usually those sort of like picking games with random scoring, it's so odd to make that head-to-head. Like, that's a really strange choice. That could be any number of players can just blindly pick things. Like, one of the key elements of being able to go head-to-head is that it becomes zero-sum, and you can make it a really tight competitive experience. So to limit that to 2 players just seems so odd. Oh.
As I thought. I mean, so it was one of the small box games. I think maybe like £7-10 at the most, but I can't see why you would go for that over many of their other offerings, never mind other games at that price range.
Maybe you just really like the chocolates theme.
It'd have to be the only reason.
If the game's got pieces that I want to eat, I'm in.
Alas, just cardboard. Not even delicious.
Can we not get a chocolate version of Le Chocolat?
And then you keep what you eat. You know,
yeah, exactly. If it's only good for a couple of plays anyway, we might as well eat it.
I'm sold. Well, I'll tell you what, let's hype up All Play then, and I'll give you my game of the con, or at least the most played game of the con. And it's one of two games, but primarily Movie Night or Book Club, both designed by Peter C. Hayward and published by All Play. The artist on this one's Sai Beppu, with little sort of cartoony characters throughout the cards. So Movie Nights and Book Club is a party style game, and we must have played it 50, 60 times. Super easy. You got two cards in each box. Movie has, movie doesn't have, or book has, book doesn't have. You flip something over. Movie has copper criminal. Name a movie that has a copper criminal.
It's Die Hard.
Sure, perfect. You flip over another card. That card is dog. Does Die Hard have a dog in it?
Not that I could think of now.
Correct. So dog goes into the movie has column. So now you need a new movie that has a copper criminal and a dog.
Canine.
Perfect. Flip over another card. Holiday or celebration. Does Canine have any birthdays, Christmases?
No, but Die Hard does, but it doesn't have a dog.
But now you don't have a dog, right? So now you've got to think of a movie that has a dog, cops or criminals, and a holiday.
Is there a dog in Home Alone?
Good question. Like those are common movies. All these movies came up.
Yeah.
So you do that 5 times. You've got 5 minutes to do it, and if you get them, you win. So the first 2, easy. Third one starts locking in your options. Fourth one, depending on what comes up, can be hard. And that 5th one, you're like just racking your brain. It's like underwater scene. Oh well, they were in the, he's in the bath in Minority Report, so you can't have that. Or Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like, well, yeah, he falls in, and it's really hard to get that perfect movie or the perfect book. And books just realise how much I don't read enough.
Oh yeah, no, I was about to say, like, I can do this with movies. If I have to do this with books, I'm done. Like, I wouldn't know anything.
And books have other ones where nobody owns it is one of the things that come up. So a book that nobody owns, or a book that everybody's read. It's like, oh no, like, how are you supposed to get that one? So that was, they were £7 each from the All Play stand, and they must have been played, I want to say 50 times over the weekend. Like, people would just bust it out. A game's 5 minutes tops, because then the timer goes off and it's all over. But you can play until you're bored, and you do it over and over and over. There's only 34 cards in each. But a combination of 5 out of 34 gives you
a vast number of possibilities.
234,256 combinations. Queens, lots of queens. Yeah, so you need to know at least that many different movies, I suppose. Or I guess some movies fulfill multiple criteria. But I can recommend both of those. Top fun, super cheap. Easy to play.
Very good. Well, we like fun and cheap and easy. I'm going to get accused of not liking those things because I don't talk about enough games that are actually like that.
Yeah, let's go into this massive campaign game with thousands of tokens.
But yes,
Lols.
So that's fun. I like that idea. I could play that. I could play them. Is it 2 separate boxes, movies and books?
Two separate boxes, yeah.
All right, so I can get the movie one. I can't get the
book
one.
Yeah. Leave the book one on the shelf.
I could do a video game one. A video game one would be fun.
Yeah. Recommend it.
I can do a board game one too, but Barry, that's for me and Barry to do.
Start getting meta.
Yeah, this game. The game has trivia cards. This one.
Yeah. Board game night. So I did play one, I'll just, a bit of a throwaway, Dicey Waters. So this is Haim Shafir, and it was originally published by Amigo, but I think it's now Hachette's got it. I can't remember where I've seen it. But this is Piraten Kapern, which I may have spoken about before. I've played it 495 times. 490 of them have been on Board Game Arena because it's not been possible. It's not in English, right? So Piraten Kapern, you'd have to import it from Germany or France. but now it's coming as Dicey Waters to the UK and probably the US as well. And this is a dice chucker, push your luck, try and get most points for what the card says at the time. So you get 100 points for every parrot and monkey, or you get 100 points for every diamond or whatever, and you're rolling them to make sets of these. And then the card tells you that you need 3 sabres for 500 points or else you bust. Or if you roll 3 skulls, that's you out. You don't get any points for that round. First to 6,000. This game's completely the same. It's got all the promo cards in it. One new card, where if you have to roll 5 sabres for 1,200 points, or the other players divvy up those 1,200 points if you bust. Effectively, it is not a great game. Let's be clear. It is not even one of my favourite push your luck games, but it is a 2-minute game on Board Game Arena for 2 players, and it's always we'll play best of 3 to finish off the night. So that's why I'm up at 495 plays of it. But maybe my 500th game will be for real.
At last, you get to throw dice in real life.
Capybara Crush. Did you see that one at all? It was also beside Use Up All Your Sick Days, which is the raccoon game, but using up your sick days. I wanted to check that out, never ended up playing it.
I did see that one, yeah.
Dylan Coyle, Charming Games Collective with the artist Andre Ebreo, and it is a pattern building game. Basically, you stack. Capybaras are famous for getting on with every other animal, right?
Yeah.
So these are stacks of 3 animals that you set on your capybara's heads: goats, chickens, turtles, right? And you're trying to make chains of animals across your 8 capybara's heads, and you're going to score a point for every animal in a chain of your longest chain. You've got your own target capybara animal, so maybe you get a bonus point for every turtle you get, and then you have a few stars to spend on special powers that will let you flip things upside down or move things or somehow manipulate those lines. Very easy, very simple. You're just drafting a card, playing a card, love letter style. You've got one, draft one, play one, draft one, play one, and trying to get the most points you can. So it was fun. Would I buy it? I don't know. I didn't buy it, so clearly not pulled the trigger yet. But it was decent enough. There's a bunch of different powers and scoring objectives that you can kind of mix in. There is a solo game, like a little sort of campaign type thing. You can go along and on the scoring track for the solo game, if you end up on like a crocodile and stuff, you get eaten and have to move back, and then you can move further up on the raft and things going on there. So the very small box game with a few things going on, and pleasant enough, really cute looking and fun, if that sounds like your kind of thing. So the hottest game potentially at the Expo was Tenby. So I think that came out last year. I think it was a crowdfunded campaign, probably a Kickstarter.
Yeah, so I believe the Kickstarter, I don't actually know if it was Kickstarter. It was a crowdfunding platform. I believe it delivered around the time of Essen last year.
Yeah.
Because I think that they had a small number of copies available at Essen, I think. But those sold out real fast.
Yep. And same problem here. So this was a Waterstones exclusive for a time, but once they sold out, then Games Lore had some, and I think a couple of other retailers had a few copies. But this is designed by Benji Talbot and published by Cozy Cub Games. Designer Benji Talbot and his company Cozy Cub Games, but Mighty Boards probably published the version that people have ended up with. And it was on my list and I did want to check it out, but I'd kind of ignored it. Like, I hadn't picked it up on the Friday, I hadn't picked it up on the Saturday, and then everybody was talking about it, and it's like, oh, there's 10 copies left at Games Lore. And so I was like, okay, Sunday morning, let's get in there. Let's go queue up. So dashed there Sunday morning, picked it up first thing. They had 20 copies, 25 copies or something going. But everybody said it was really good, so I was like, okay, cool, I'll get it. So I picked it up, and then the reason I picked it up is because somebody had compared it to Castle Combo and Faraway in terms of the level it was at and the feeling they were getting from the game. I was like, I like both those games, I'm in. So that's why I made the dash for it, not just to lord it over people that I had it and they didn't. Although that was part of it, you know. And then as I was walking around the con, the table for Tenby was free for the demo on the Sunday, and so I managed to get half a game in. Like, it was 5 of the 10 rounds we played on the table, and then later on I played at the Hilton a full couple of games of Tenby, and it was pretty good fun. So the game is set in the town of Tenby, a seaside town of Tenby. On your turn, you are King Domino style, bidding on which actions you'll get to take that turn, and the earlier actions will let you get, or the worse actions will let you pick earlier in the next round for what you get. But you're getting to put out houses, piers, landmarks, or collecting objective cards on your turn, and then putting them into the streets of Tenby. Every card has a scoring condition. Might be the number of clouds, might be the number on the cards that are adjacent, it might be the number of shuttered windows that are on the 2 cards left and right. And so you're building up your town to meet these scoring criteria, and eventually looking to close off the streets. There's end pieces that will close off the streets, and the reason you close them off is because then your objectives are worth more if you can fulfill the conditions and you've closed them off. The landmarks themselves are score for the whole length of the street, so maybe you want to build a massive long street, or maybe you want to just fulfill the conditions on the objectives and build multiple streets for multiple objectives. And that is functionally the game. Each round you're bidding on which actions you'll get to take. It could be you'll get 2 houses and a pier, or maybe you're going to go up to the big actions that are going to get you a house, 2 waters, a landmark, and an objective, but you're going to be picking last next round because it's 16 instead of 1 for where it lies on the game. And over 10 rounds it takes up a lot of space. You're putting out multiple cards per turn, and they're only small cards, they're not full size poker cards, but they still take up, you have a long row of cards by the time 10 rounds is done, because you're also able to buy additional cards with resources you gather. You're getting 2, 3, 4, potentially 5 cards in a round to go into all these streets. And so whilst it looks like a small box game, it is a table hog, because you've also got the tableau, the marketplace, in addition to what you're building in front of you. And across 4, I think it goes up to 5 players, and across like the 5 players, you're going to need a big table, right? Don't be fooled by the small box. You'll need a big table if you're going up to 5 players. But the comparisons to Castle Combo and Far Away, I kind of get it. The scoring system, where you're building up what you're scoring next to the cards you're playing out, is a little bit far away. I don't necessarily agree with the Castle Combo comparison. Not that they're saying the same type of game, but the same feeling. I don't get that same kind of feeling because you're only scoring adjacent. You're not scoring... You can't build up the combos. You're not like... The cards that your cards care about can only be next to them. And your objectives might care across multiple streets, but a lot of them only care about a single street. And it's just not as good as Castle Combo. So make of that as what you will. But yeah, I don't regret picking it up. I will play a fair number more games before I kind of come down on a verdict on it. I have played the solo game a couple of times now. It is fine. It doesn't give you the same feel as the competitive game, but it is its own little puzzle. It will take cards away from you from your choices, and what you get rid of does matter for scoring. So there is a good solo game there as well.
Yeah, I've sort of seen this. I've been shown it. I've never played it. I thought the action selection system looked interesting. I liked the vibe of that.
It was solid. Like my partner was like, "Oh, I'm really glad you bought that." After we demoed it, I was like, "Okay, cool." And then we went and played it, and I smashed her by like 90 points, and then she wasn't so keen on it.
And that's why Barry doesn't play Tenby anymore. And
that's why I've been playing the solo mode. In more ways than one. Anyway, family show.
We can talk about one that we looked at together. So moving on into the, I guess, the slightly heavier games, we sat down at Owen Davey Games to play Fame and Fable. So big thanks to Owen for arranging a demo for us. Much appreciated. Barry, you had already backed this on crowdfunding?
So I had skipped the crowdfunding. I've straight up pre-ordered it. So like post-campaign, no risk. Pre-order. And the primary reason, really, like the game looked functional and fun. And then the art, which Owen also has done, kind of suckered me in.
Yeah.
And not suckered me in, sucked me in. And it was like an alternative Eternal Decks. So I'd been enjoying Eternal Decks. This was like a sort of competitive. It's not the same system by any stretch of the imagination. But that's what got me into it. It was like, yeah, watched how it was played out, and thought that'll be fun.
Yeah, the art, I can see the art has some similarities in style to Eternal Decks. Like certainly not derivative, but I would argue sort of the same kind of like sort of minimalist, sort of but colorful appeal. And it's really, really nice. Fame and Fable looks great. It is not a cooperative game like Eternal Decks is, but rather a competitive game in which you are sort of, I guess you're sort of deck, it's not really deck building because you don't have a deck, it's hand management. You're sort of managing a hand of cards and you get to refresh them at certain times. And on your turn, what you're really trying to do is just murder monsters. And every time you murder monsters, you get points. And you murder monsters by playing cards from your hand and then tapping them. And once they're tapped, they remain tapped until some game effect untaps them, which could be more card play, or it could be other people scoring points, or indeed, it could even be you scoring points that does untap them. And then you get actions, and actions are functionally both the actions you'll take in the game, but also currency to buy more cards to add to your hand. So you want to sort of keep this thing flowing and building up so you can score points, and the game is first to X number of points.
Yeah, so 100 points. In the full game, we played the half points to 50. Pretty much got there. And like you say, you're buying cards, cost you actions. Playing cards is free, bizarrely. But then, using the ability on a card might cost you an action, or engaging a monster would cost you an action. And as you fall further behind, or if you fall behind, the catch-up mechanism gives you additional actions, depending on how much further behind the lead person you are.
Yeah.
So you can do more on your turn, which is both a boon and a detriment to the game, I would say.
Yeah, it's got... So for me, I think... I mean, I sort of... Like, the opening to the game for me was a little bit feel bad because there was a mean card on the table and I spent my entire opening turn 3 actions just picking up that card. And I was like, and then a couple turns later when I played it, I think I played it on you actually, and you just noped it. And I was like, oh, I've missed an entire turn. Am I stuffed? And no, I was not. I just rubber banded back up to the top, and when the game ended, we were all pretty much neck and neck with no major significant gaps between us, which is fine. I don't know necessarily how I feel about that. Like, obviously, it's nice to have close games. You want games to be exciting and competitive. On the other hand, too much rubber banding begins to feel like the decisions don't have really any kind of meaningful consequence.
Yeah.
So my gut feeling was this fell a little bit too much on the side of my decisions don't matter too much because if I fail, the game will just pick me back up again. Having said that, at some point you'll get to that threshold, and the minute someone crosses it, everyone else gets one more turn, and then you're done. And so, if that happens to be a point where you're falling behind, you could lose that way. But for me, actually, that was not something I was. I mean, I don't know. How did you feel about that part?
Yeah, like I had a few issues with it. As I said, we all finished pretty much evens. And so on your turn, really, I didn't feel like I felt like you had decisions, but I felt like all your decisions led to Rome, kind of thing. Like, it didn't really matter which monster I fought. I would just pick the ones that I could kind of get the stuff to beat, and I'd get enough points that I'd be keeping up.
Yeah.
And it didn't really matter which person I bought, as long as they were the right person to beat that monster at that time. And it didn't really matter on the items necessarily, because the people, your heroes and your characters are generally a little bit better. Although there's some interesting items in there, and I never felt obliged to go in on the legendary creature blinds. But again, the whole mechanism, the game keeps you evens almost regardless of what you do. Like, I remember the first few turns, like they were 30 points ahead of Michael, and then he just caught back up again.
Yep. And it comes back to that point where I wrote off an entire turn where I scored no points just to buy one card, and that turned out, and then that card got nullified by a card that was significantly cheaper than it. So, functionally that should have been a huge swing against me, but turned out to be not really any kind of major setback. But I think, the other part of it, which I'd mention, is that it's a whole series of open marketplaces, right? Face-up marketplaces. You're buying cards from there. There's face-up objective cards. There's face-up monster cards. You choose which ones to fight. So you've got all these face-up marketplaces. And this does something that I really dislike, which is that the marketplaces are, like, we can complain all we want about June Imperium's market not moving enough, but I actually think that is less of an issue than the marketplaces move way too much. Because what it means is functionally I have no way to plan ahead or plan my turns, right?
Yeah.
And it can be almost like the inverse, or like sort of the inverted frustration, because I'm seeing cards that I could score or combo off of or do really cool things with just cycle out, and something turns over and I'm like, oh, that's really good for me. And then it's gone. And there was just never any way I was going to see it. So, you really, there's no much need to pay attention to what's going on until your turn. Now, there are cards that play out of turn, like the one I used on Barry, which he noped. So there is player interaction between turns, but again, like, you can't, Barry might have anticipated it by seeing me pick up the card that targets another player and might have hunted that nope card. I don't know, or maybe you just drew it at random, or maybe you would have bought it anyway because you're like, well, I'd like some protection from nefarious player interactions. But realistically, there's not much to be doing between your turns. So it feels like there's a lot of downtime. Now, the thing is, when it did come around to my turn, and I've got all of these things, so again, a bit more downtime while I'm now reading all the cards that are out there that I haven't really seen before. But once I started interacting with the marketplaces, once I had an idea of what I could do, once I started trying to problem solve and puzzle solve that, there was quite a lot of stuff going on there, and it was quite nice. I was like, oh, I could do this, I could do that, I could turn into this, I could do that. Occasionally the game would be like, oh, this turn you're fighting that monster, take that. And you'd be like, okay, now this is a new problem I have to solve. Because I wasn't really planning on this, and, this monster's maybe not something that's, my first choice of what to fight. So I thought that was quite good in the moment where I was doing that, but it was way too little. And also, like, we're all quite competent at the table. Everyone who was there is quite competent. And so I'm hardly surprised that once we'd all sort of had these fun little turns, it shook out to be largely the same thing in the end. And I think, part of me was looking for, like with this card that stole something from Barry, was looking for some way to sort of engage with the game, maybe beyond this sort of core loop of just fight the monsters or earn the points. But it really felt like that's kind of all there was to it.
Yeah, there was one module we didn't play with that had to do with the night cards, but I don't think it changes anything significantly. I think I would. I don't know. I'm considering it. I did have a look to see if I could unback it, having pre-ordered it, or cancel my order, having come back. It wasn't as easy to push a button. I'd probably have to email Owen. which makes it awkward, but I still might. I don't know. I think I'd have a few fun games with it, and then I'd just be like, well, what am I? As we've spoken of before, like, what am I doing I'm getting better at this game, that the decisions remain interesting, and if when everybody's got superpowers, nobody's got superpowers.
Yeah. I think it probably doesn't. It probably isn't best at 4 because all of these issues like the downtime and the rubber banding are more apparent at 4. But I also feel a bit like, and by the way, it's a gorgeous production. And I feel like a lot of the appeal is the gorgeous art and getting surprised by the creatures and the heroes that come out. And that's very exciting. And the starting characters were very cute and appealing as well. I was angry poison cat. And there is a fun mechanism where you get to flip over your player board at the end of the game and you check your total points against these paragraphs on the back of your player board, and it gives you some flavor text about how your story panned out, so if you got like 0 to 10 points, which would be impossible given the rubber banding, like it just wouldn't be possible. But it says like, your character is forgotten in ignominy, and if you get lots of points or even if you win, it's like, I think they were like, because my character is like the cat race, right? They're like, people dress up in the outfits you wore and they call themselves copycats. I was like, that's super cute. So I really like that flavor, and that sort of terse world building adds a lot of value. I really like that. But I just think that the core mechanism is so sort of simplistic that I think even at 2-player, after a couple of games, you'd be like, oh, I kind of seen everything this has to offer.
Yeah. And actually, I was somewhat worried, even the amount of item cards there was at 4 players. I felt like you'd get through that deck pretty easy if there was enough items that looked interesting.
Yep.
But yes, I'll need to decide pretty quick as to whether I want to keep it. I can probably sell it on again, but I've got a stack of games I need to get rid of. I don't need another one that I just need to play twice and move on. I'll go for another small game, but one game that could be huge. But the game that I want to talk about is Compile 3. So we've played Compile. You own Compile 1 and 2, I presume. I own Compile 1 and 2.
It's true.
A reasonable amount. Compile Main 3. There wasn't the Ox there, but there's another 3 protocols coming. This is designed by Michael Yang, published by Synapses Games. And it was excellent. Actually, the first time sat down and played it, maybe the best game of Compile I've had with using these new protocols. And that was against a completely new player. And it just so happened that the ones that we picked had a really interesting play and back and forth. Could have been coincidence because we came back the next day, played again, wasn't as fun. Still Compile, so it's still good for what it is, but we found the Nova aspect didn't shake out. You want to be stacking up your Nova cards, and the more Nova cards you have, the better your effects are. We couldn't really get that going with the other protocols we picked. So I'm sure it's good within some context, and a big part of Compile is understanding how the protocols interact and doing the drafts and things along those lines beyond just the actual play. Once you've played everything once or twice, it's really getting into the nitty gritty, the metagaming, the drafting that gives Compile legs. But it does seem to be a good addition. Like the protocols that were in there were good fun. It comes with a solo mode that you can backport into the old sets. In fact, I don't think there's no cards required. It's just a set of rules. So you'll be able to do that with Compile 1 and 2 if you want to on your own there. Would I ever play Compile solo? That doesn't seem like the most fun way to play that game.
Yeah, I imagine it'd become really sort of mathsy. you know.
Yeah, well, you're giving the AI, the Automa, a deck, and it's flipping them over, and it'll put it into whatever column it is. And so, yes, to get familiar with what the protocols do, potentially, if you're going into a compiled tournament, you may want to consider starting to get good by playing solo.
Right.
But really, the play of the game, the play of compile, is really human driven, if you ask me. Like, yes, you get the same abilities from an AI, but it's not making the decisions. It's not doing the clever things that compile can do. But yeah, we're picking this up, day one. Anyway, it is more compile, and I like compile.
Continues to be good.
Correct. Another sort of sequel, but actually a prequel to a game that you picked me up at Essen, so 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I did pick up Journey to the Centre of the Earth, which is also by Alberto Milan and published by Looping Games. This was brought to the Expo by Revelation Games. And I've played it a couple of times now, but only the solo version, because there's only so much time you had at the Expo to get games played. And it's a fairly basic flip and write. You flip over a... Same as Journey to the... same as 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. You've got two pads of paper. One pad's your route, and one pad's just your scoring. Like, you don't even need it. Unlike 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where you've got above the surface, below the surface, this is just basically your journey to the centre of the earth and your tick box list for where you're going to get your points. And it is a cross between Railroad Ink, because you're drawing paths like up, down, left, right, corners into squares to go from your volcano entrance to the centre of the earth and get back out again in a timely fashion. And maybe a little bit cartographers, because sometimes monsters will come up and then you hand the pad to the player to your left or right and they'll draw in an area you can no longer explore, much like the monsters and cartographers. But it's super basic. Like, it's really, it is the most, I don't want to say the most generic. There's also items you can find, and you got to draw them on your thing. But it's very straightforward, let's put it that way, for what it is, and certainly in comparison to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And it does make sense that 20,000 Leagues is the newer one of the two games. There's a lot probably been learned and added to over that time. I've not picked up 80 Days Around the World, which is a very different game. You're measuring distances with cards, or guessing. You're guessing distances and then measuring them with cards in 80 Days Around the World. That didn't appeal to me in quite the same way. So, Journey to the Centre of the Earth, it's fine. That's it.
What if I'm a fan of the book, though?
Nah, there's no real theme. You got 3 characters from the book. The game restricts you to where you can put your tunnels. So you'll flip over one that tells you can put it in column C, and you'll flip over something else that tells you the shape of the tunnel that you find, or you find an item. And so you're trying to build into those items, and the more items you find, the more points you get. The quicker you get to the centre of the earth, the more points you earn. If you get back out, you get bonus points. You've got to have water as you go through the deck. If you don't have water, you'll die in the middle of the earth. Kind of deal. There's stuff going on, but it's super simple. And there's no campaign. That's what it needs. I needed a campaign add-on. Yeah, maybe that'll give me something to do. I'll work on a campaign add-on. It's definitely got, the system's fine. The system can be adapted, so there's got to be something there.
You just got to stay true to that book then, Barry. Read the book first, then you can do a campaign.
I don't think I've ever read it. I've definitely seen 3 different versions, including the one with the rock. But I don't think I've read the book.
God, I forgot that was a thing. I haven't seen that. I forgot it was a thing.
Well, yeah, I should probably talk about games that people are going to be mad keen on. One game I played and one up my wheelhouse, or up my street, was Hellbreak. Did you see Hellbreak at all?
No, I didn't. I can see it here, though, on your list.
So this is designed by Stephen Kimball, Christian T. Peterson, and Jeremy Swern. All names you might recognise, particularly from FFG days, but in particular card games from FFG. Published by Ghost Galaxy and particularly Spin Master, backed by Spin Master. on this one, and it's a new TCG, so trading card game or collectible card game based on Universal licenses. So the game that the core set, the starter box is Dracula versus Jaws. Is the system. And
that's wild. I mean, that is a fight that I would like be interested in seeing.
Well, now you can play it out. And the game is I won't get into it too much, but basically you got your character. So you've got your leader, which Jaws or Dracula. You've got like a scheming side and an aggressive side and an attacky side. Aim of the game is to defeat the other player's leader. Both players will bring a location, and they form the two locations that you'll fight over within the game. On your turn, you generate, you play one of your cards, and the highest value goes first for initiative. But on the bottom of all your cards are different resources. That could be scheme points, money, or drawing cards. And your leader has some money built in and some card draw built in, but depending on what cards you play, changes what you get at the start of every round. Then you're going to play characters into one of the two locations. If you scheme at a location, eventually you'll take control of it, and that will give you an ability. And your leader's in both locations, but otherwise you're locked to what it is. So what you might start recognizing is you're basically playing games you've kind of played before, right? So Star Wars Unlimited, you've got your ground force and your space force, very similar to that. The resourcing system for tucking the cards, it's not exactly like anything else, but it's not different enough that you're going to struggle understanding what your income is each round. The resources you generate can be spent to use abilities or be spent to play events from your hand that do stuff. Your decision on whether to scheme with your leader or to attack with them, interesting, whether you're flipped, or you can flip back and forward turn after turn, and then your characters can only affect the location they're in or the other leader, and your leader can be straddles both. It's an amalgamation of things that you've seen before. There's nothing new here, I would argue, for the game. Everything was solid, everything played fine. I don't know why I'd play it. I can't remember if I mentioned last time, or I don't think we've had much of a podcast where we've had an opportunity to discuss trends in gaming. CCGs are big right now. They're in a boom with the Cyberpunk one, with this one coming out. We're due a bust, and I don't see this making it. Other than being backed by Universal License and Spin Master, I don't know if this is going to have the legs to push into Lorcana and whatever else. I was speaking to the guys at Yu-Gi-Oh! And Konami, and you know they're kind of almost out of the top 5 within sales and stuff at the moment. With One Piece from Bandai, you know, Pokemon's still up there, Magic's still up there. I don't think the economy can support this many TCGs at the moment, and so I think things are going to start going bust quite soon. Lorcana's still doing fine. Trying to break in at this point seems unnecessary, but I keep getting advertised more and more of them, and so it just suggests things have got to crunch down again at some point.
Yeah, well, I think back to Star Wars Destinies and how rapidly that just collapsed despite the backing of, you know, Disney. And obviously Lorcana's done a lot better. Maybe it's a better game. Maybe it's because the broader appeal of the full universe, Disney universe, was just bigger. But I don't know. I mean, I find all of this stuff a bit baffling because I've never really liked the TCG model.
No.
I'm just not a fan of the sort of monetary costs, you know. I know a lot of people that play Yu-Gi-Oh! But don't actually own any of the cards because it's just too expensive to play physically, and that I just find that whole thing so unappealing. Which is why I'm a big fan of stuff like Null Signal, the living card game stuff that FFG used to do was a model I preferred the idea of. But you know, I mean, the Null Signal stuff, you can actually just download all the cards for free and print them yourself.
Yeah. Print them yourself if you wanted to.
Yeah. I'm the kind of person that says I have literally no problem with proxies. If you want to proxy everything, I'm totally fine with that. But my understanding is if everyone could proxy whatever they want in Magic, the game actually breaks. So
Yes.
I also think
Yeah,
that's a problem with your game's structure.
Well, yeah, if everybody's playing CEDH, then the game's over turn one. You know, it's just who goes first.
Well, I imagine that there's some interest here for people who are fans of the previous work of these people. You know, I think they've worked on some really good card games, so there might be a good game here. It's a baffling IP. The concept of Jaws sort of representing a deck or I mean, it's just I feel like Jaws and Dracula would be a natural alliance. You know, he eats everyone in the town, and when they try to escape on the boats, Jaws eats them. Like, you know, Dracula's one weakness, running water, is now not a problem. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. I find that theme baffling. I would be excited to see them plumb the depths of the more obscure Universal Pictures monsters. That was a whole cinematic universe they tried to kick off in like the 40s and the 50s. And there's some really odd ones in there, like the man-made monster. It's just a man who's immune to electricity.
Yeah. All right.
And I think there's one called like I'm trying to remember exactly what it's called, but it's like Captive Wild Woman, or I think it's a woman's brain gets put into the body of a gorilla, and then I think they just put it back into a woman again. I can't remember. It's so weird, but there's just really weird movies, and like a lot of them are just like, well, we've got this gorilla costume, so let's just make use of it, right? So I mean, they'll probably stick to like, you know, Frankenstein's monster and, you know, werewolf and all of that. But I'm so here for like the weirder stuff.
Yeah, Tremors. We'll go do the graboids.
Is Tremors Universal's monsters?
So it seems, yeah.
I had no idea. That's exciting. Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good one, though.
Yeah. I think Evil Dead looks like it's in there.
So
The Thing. Yeah,
I mean, I guess they're actually looking at. They're not looking at. Okay, so I'm envisaging the sort of the original Universal cinematic universe, which was a concept way back before cinematic universes were really a known thing. It looks like they're, I mean, and I should have twigged when you said Jaws, that they're looking more like monster films by Universal, because I don't think Jaws was ever intended to be part of that cinematic universe or anything like that, whereas Dracula and Boris Karloff definitely was one of, I think, the first sets of films in that world. So, you know, they've got, if they're just looking at Universal's pictures, movies with monsters in, they've got a much broader palette, which is probably for the best. As much as I want man-made monster, I'm still not buying the cards. So they should probably focus on the stuff people will buy instead of the quirky stuff I want to see. Although actually I would buy that card. If I can buy singles, I would buy the card for that monster because it'd be so dumb.
Yeah. I want to say it was Lugosi was Universal, wasn't Karloff Hammer. But Boris Karloff was Frankenstein. Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah, and Bela Lugosi was Dracula. Well, actually, interestingly, in The Ghost of Frankenstein, Lon Chaney is the monster, and Bela Lugosi is Igor. So it turns out there's no consistency. They could just do what they want. Doesn't matter.
Yep. Anyway, the game was fine, but it's nothing you haven't seen. So we'll see what sort of legs it ends up with.
Why don't we talk about something we both played? Why don't we talk about SHUG, seeing as it's live on crowdfunding right now anyway?
SHUG.
And also, I've been asked this question as well. Like, you know, what is SHUG? Should I back it? It is a fantasy adventure party game. It has got a big board. It's a whole series of different terrain, and they're all gridded up in squares. And on your turn, you roll a couple of dice. You move a bunch of spaces along the pathways. If you deviate from the pathways, you will fight a monster. But the monster can be befriended, and it will probably have some quirky requirement, like, you know, if you can, you know, name 5 types of whales, befriend the monster. If you are a clean and tidy person, befriend the monster. These sorts of things. There is also treasure cards that you'll draw at the beginning of your turn that you can use to help you. And what you're trying to do is find these 5 runes that have been scattered across the kingdom. And each rune is a legendary item that will help you along the way, except for one, which is the SHUG. And if you find that, then you carry it back to the pub and deliver the SHUG to the pub and win the game. There's also a king, and if you can amass enough value in terms of your items and your friendly monsters that you've allied with, you can go and defeat the king and win that way, but it's very difficult to do. We played a couple of rounds of this because I'd sort of seen the cards before. I saw it at UKGE last year, and there's a lot of here I find very appealing, at least theoretically. I didn't understand how the board necessarily integrated with the game, or I had a sort of an idea of how it integrated, but then it's like I wanted to get a sense of that tension and get a sense of that flow of the game and how it worked. So we sat down, you and your partner and me and Michael, and we played a couple of rounds of this, and I don't think it quite hit for us, really. There's a lot here to like, but there's also some stuff that I feel like makes it difficult to place when or where this is for. I feel like I want to break this out on a beer and pretzels night or break this out at the pub. It's already got a lot of cards and and a small amount of little pieces on the board. So it doesn't necessarily... The production's gorgeous, by the way. And one of the designers is Luke Di Montefiore, who I believe is the artist on the project, and the cards look incredible. It's great art, very evocative of Terry Gilliam's Monty Python stuff. Just really, really, really good. And what we saw was a sort of early production copy, and the components were really nice. No complaints about the card stock or anything presented there. I think the thing is, it's a very, very casual game, right? It's got a lot of sort of fun ideas in it, but what it doesn't sort of give you is a strong framework with which to play around with those ideas. And also it wants to handle disputes through sort of ad hoc arbitrations.
SHUG court.
Yeah, it's called SHUG court. And I feel like under certain circumstances, SHUG court can be really fun, right? Like, I'm not opposed to, all right, we need to hash out the way this works. And I can envisage a number of ways establishing the way something works might manifest. And actually, my first instinct was every time there's an ambiguity, we do a SHUG court, but to give it real gravitas, you actually have to write it down on the game itself. Yeah. And it's like, all right, now this is how this game works. Our copy of this game works forever. And I thought that would be really fun, but it doesn't do that. That's just my idea. What it does instead is it just sort of has you hash these things out whenever there's an ambiguity. And we ran into quite a few ambiguities in the very short period of time in which we were playing.
Yeah.
And so part of me wonders, is it just because, Barry is a Netrunner player, I'm a rules lawyer, are we just running into these things because we interrogate these in a greater detail than other people? I don't think so, though. My impression is that people are going to immediately start running into these, and then they're going to have to start doing SHUG court, and then that's going to become a lot of the game, is just arguing about the timing of things and whatnot. And it's going to be a lot of people going, oh, I didn't think this would work that way. That's just how it comes out. Which is a shame, because that's sort of directly at odds with the lightheartedness of the game, or the lightheartedness the game is otherwise presenting, which is a goofy race game with silly cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I totally agree. I guess, the history of the game is that the three brothers started making this game when they were 7, and there's a great history of it up there, and you can see all the original cars that they did. And you know, Luke and Rufus have gone on to start this sort of animation studio and become these artists and game designers, and it all coming together with this set of skills. And if you're looking at the adverts and stuff online, you've got this full animation of things going on. It's incredible looking.
Yeah.
But the fact that the game started in the imagination of a 7-year-old kind of is carried through into the design of where it's at now, and it shows, you know, like these ambiguities, these lack of definition around it. And I'm sure that the brothers and their friends have held SHUG court many a time, and they've got ideas for how they should resolve it and everything else, but they've left that in, whereas board gamers do not like ambiguity, and I would argue party gamers also don't really like ambiguity. People that are just coming along for a good time, they don't want to have to argue about when they can do something or how they can do something. You know, one circumstance that we ran into was very quickly on, we became teams of 2. So win or lose together. Great, sounds fun. But then a card came up where one team had to effectively act out a charade for the other team to guess. And it was unclear whether the acting out was enough to win, or whether the correct guess of the other team was required to win.
Yeah. It was. I mean, it was such a funny challenge because the dialogue on the card said that the person who was resolving the card would pick another player, who would then hide behind the other players. So this won't work in a 2-player game at all, in theory anyway. But I don't. You know,
there was no alternative.
There was no alternative, right? And then the person who was hidden from view would be doing charades. The person who was resolving the card would mimic the charades, and that's kind of where it left off. So the role of the people who are observing the person who is doing the mimicry is unclear. Are they trying to guess the charade? Are they supposed to be judging it for accuracy? Well, they can't, because the other person's hidden. In the team game, this made more sense because at least me and the hidden person were on the same team. So we're trying to accurately mimic each other so that I could win the card because we're on the same team. If they were my opponent, surely they would be either doing something completely impossible for me to mimic because they're trying to sabotage me, or if they do decide to collect, or they could just do nothing at all, and then I would look like I'm sitting there doing nothing at all, and then the other people would be like, well, you're not mimicking anything, and it's like, well, because I'm not being given anything to mimic. And then we get into this SHUG court where it's like, you know, well, is that mimicry? Did you win the card? And maybe the person behind bluffs and says, I was giving them stuff to mimic and they just weren't doing it. So it's this sort of mess of motivations, right, that are not clearly defined, and then the use of the term charades as well, it implies that somebody is guessing the thing. So in the end, we just played a game of charades, you know, because that's actually fun to do. And charades by proxy, so someone's playing charades, I'm mimicking them. It's a bit like Chinese whispers. It's fun, right? Like it's that is fun. And I don't know why that's not just what's written on the card, because that is fun. But similarly, again, once you get into this place where everybody's competing against each other, and, you know, I will throw out that the game does seem to have a cooperative and possibly even a solo variant, although I don't know how that would work. But when you're working in a place where everyone's competitive, I feel like you have to incorporate those motivations into the things you're trying to resolve, you know? And so I think there are ways to do this, you know? Like the card could have said, you know, play a game of charades. The first opponent that guesses the charade gets some kind of benefit, you know, also gets to draw a card or gets a treasure card or gets to take a step, you know, and then it's like, all right, so I'm going to win the card if somebody guesses this, and they're going to get a little Benny for guessing it as well. And then you're just kind of acknowledging that this is a competitive game, and that's what we're doing. So it's sort of it sort of seems to have some strange constructions there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was a second game played on the Sunday. My partner and my friend went back to get a full game in, and it was one, they got SHUG to the pub or my friend got SHUG to the pub, but the couple they ended up playing pretty much refused to engage with the shenanigans aspect of the game at all. So as we've said, you've got to do some silly stuff within the game to earn the characters, to earn the allies, to earn the monsters, to use an item, those kind of things. And the woman they played just kind of shut down any kind of fun to be had there. Now, there's an argument, don't play with those kind of people.
Yeah.
And obviously at the expo you don't really have the choice, but in real life you have the choice, and we could all sit down with the idea that we're just going to have a bit of silly fun with the game, and we'll just have a good time, like say beer and pretzels with it. But that then leaves me thinking a little bit like, it's Munchkin. Once you've seen all the cards, once you've had the fun, there's no real game backing that up that you're going to be going back to. So other than the fact that it looks beautiful, and other than the fact that it can be fun with the right atmosphere and the right people, it doesn't have the framework to have repeated plays. It does feel like the kind of game you would have come up with when you were a child, just making up the rules on the fly type thing. So I don't know, tough one. It's a tough one to recommend. You have to know what you're getting into. It is not. They say it's like a dungeon crawler. It's not like a dungeon crawler.
No, not even remotely. It is a light-hearted, rules ambiguous party game, and I think that I don't know if it's just the way it presents, or it's just because I don't know if this is our default mode, but going in with a competitive mindset, I think will lead to a lot of frustration. You kind of need to go in going, all right, this is going to be silly, flip the stuff, fun. The game is going to offer opportunities to be, and you have to kind of want to be a theater kid,
Yeah.
and role play as a theater kid for 90 minutes or 2 hours or whatever it takes to play, because that's where the game is going to be fun, the joy of sort of performing, right? And rather than trying to play an actual competitive game. And I think that if they'd leaned into that harder, or they'd lead into the sort of the idea also of sort of it becoming a family game, I really like the idea of sort of like being able to edit your own cards or write rules on the cards somewhere or something like that. That could have been silly fun, like you could up the ante as well, like if you don't like the way the text here is written, or if it just said play charades, maybe like the winner gets to add something to the cards, like, play charades with, one of your hands over your eyes or something, it feels like it wants to go in that direction, and it doesn't quite find the right balance.
That reminds me, did you play Secret Society at all? It's like a proper party game.
Okay.
The vibe where they got pictures of old art and you got to pick up. Anyway, so the Secret Society is a bunch of rules, and it's either audience, speaker, before, after, right? And so you got a card and you play your card.
Oh, I did. Society. We played this at Essen. I literally have a short of us playing this on the channel.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's, the hand over the eye thing was reminding me of that our Secret Society always has a hand over the eye.
Yes, I've literally played this, yes. We played it at the sort of Meet the Media event at Essen, yeah. It was one of the party games we brought along. Yeah, no, it is, I like that. That is fun. You have to like sort of, it's basically like learning a secret handshake. You just keep adding stuff to it, and you have to just keep repeating stuff until someone messes up.
Did not take long for me to mess up. Two things.
Yeah, was it there at UKGE?
Yeah.
Is it published now? Because we had definitely had an early copy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they only had the 2 games and they were everywhere, so yeah. Yep, so one last sort of big game and preview that was available to be played at the Expo was Lord of the Rings, Circle of Conflict. So this is the new Lord of the Rings one from Office Dog, designed by Stephen Bonacore and Jeff Engelstein, and it is a roll and write, for want of a better description, because that's what you do. You roll the dice and you write things on your board. except you're playing your fellowship, so your good team plays the bad team for the player on your left, and your bad team, the shadow, plays the good players, the free peoples, to the player on your right. And then anybody else at the table, you could go up to 100 people, as long as everybody's got a bit of paper that can, or the dry erase boards at the table. But generally, you play four players. I think there's 4 players in the box. So this game has a map and a character and an army section for both the free peoples and the shadow. You roll the dice. You can either activate 1 dice per side of your board, either going to activate the travel mechanic for moving around the map. You're going to activate the character mechanic for activating your character powers, or you're going to build up your armies to go for a fight at the end. And so on the map for the free peoples, you're moving Frodo and Sam along until you get to Mount Doom, chuck the ring in, job's a great success. The different characters you'll activate will have different powers. They're going to let you combo into activating additional powers, activating armies, having specific character powers that will let you double move, that will let you cancel a shadow effect, that will let you double an army one time, those kind of effects. And then your armies are going to build up until you deploy them into one of the 2 battles, which is a separate board in between you and the player to your left and right. And then on the shadow side, you're going to be hunting for where Sam and Frodo are. And so again, it's the same move resource you're spending to try and hunt in the Shire, in Bree, in Lothlorien, wherever you think they might be. You're activating your characters to interfere with that movement, with building up your armies, trying to slow down Sam and Frodo as you go. So like Shelob, which one of the powers activated, removes all the movement resources that your player to your right might have saved up. One time, use it, then it's gone. Or same thing, building up your armies. Then as you unlock those armies, so as you build them up, you get to add additional dice. So as soon as somebody's activated Rohan, and Rohan will answer, you get to put the brown dice in, and then everybody that's unlocked Rohan will get to use the symbols on the brown dice. Now these dice are typically not as powerful as the base grey ones, but you can get an extra character icon, you can get an extra army icon. A lot of the sides are blank, right? So you're not always hitting something with those, but it's a nice extra. And then as you build it up fully, you'd get to activate that twice. So once you've unlocked the dice, you get the icon if you roll it. And once you've built it up to the top level of the army, you can double that icon every time it comes up. So people will be unlocking the different armies at different time. You'll unlock the elves, you'll unlock Rohan, you'll unlock Gondor. For the free peoples, you'll unlock Mordor, Isengard, and I forget the Southrons. So the Mumakils and such like for the shadow side, and they just add a dice in. And all at the same time, Smeagol is going to be moving around, or he might roll a ring symbol on those initial dice, which moves Smeagol around, and you can choose whether it's Smeagol or Gollum, which will give you a bonus, like a big bonus to either your fellowship for movement or for the Nazgul for hunting, and you get to choose at that point. And it's one of the main ways, or one of the easiest ways at least, to try and figure out where the fellowship is to catch them. So played that and got most of the game done inside the sort of 45-minute demo that we had, so that was included the teach. So I think once you're up and running, this game's probably 30-40 minutes, because it's simultaneous action. There's no downtime really, other than waiting for people to do it. But the function of a round is roll the dice, assign your dice, then free people secret action, everybody goes round, shadow secret action, or revealed actions go round, and then on to the next round. You roll dice again, do the same thing, roll dice again, until either Sam and Frodo get to Mount Doom, chuck the ring in, we'll end the game, or the corruption track goes all the way to the full because you've found them so much, and Sam and Frodo become corrupted by the power of the ring. And it's super quick. So the game, I would say, is somewhere between Seven Wonders Dice, which is awful, and Hadrian's Wall, which is quite good.
Yeah, I mean, what you were just describing there was, for me, very reminiscent of Seven Wonders Dice.
Correct. It's the same, like unlocking those extra dice and doing it. I refuse to believe that there's not any influence from them both there. Even the colours of the dice are quite similar within it. And if you've played Seven Wonders Dice, which I take it you have at this point, it's awful. I hate it.
I didn't have the visceral reaction that you've got, but I would not seek it out. I wouldn't suggest it. I have no desire to buy it. I don't want to play it again. I'd ask for something else, but you know, I part of me recognizes it's really not my thing.
Yeah. But like, you know, I play flipping rights, I play rolling rights. I enjoy the comboing aspect, and that is in the game, right? So deciding when to do stuff. I never made it to Mount Doom, but I was not far away from Mount Doom. Like one or two more rolls of the dice, I could have triggered Galadriel to reduce the movement cost by 3, and then Arwen to do a double move, which would have got me through with the 8 maximum move I could use, which would have got me through the last 2 points to get to Mount Doom. That doesn't necessarily win you the game. That gets you a certain number of points, but it does trigger the end of the game. And you're looking for the opportunities to score points in the battles and on other areas of the tracks that you're filling in. So it's there. It was fun. I felt it was thematic enough. My partner thought it was terribly unthematic. Like, why is there 4 Free People's players? Why is there 4 Shadow players? Like, yeah, but you're only playing half the game to your left and right. Like, just assume they're all separate games. No, she didn't like it. And I don't think there's enough game there, really. I don't think there's enough opportunity for a back and forth on the battle boards. They're quite samey. Like, you're either going to roll movement, characters, or armies. Sure, there'll be some games where you pretty much only roll armies, but like comboing off movement, your first move gets you another move, and your third move gets you another move. So you're always getting like 4 move as a combo within itself. You're not having to combo with anything else to earn that movement. So you're always going to be moving, which I guess is useful because it's going to eventually end the game. And Gollum gives you a full movement. So at some point you're going to get that for free as well. So I don't know. I felt like it'd be the same game over and over. It wasn't unfun. It wasn't unpleasant. It was nice enough. The dry erase, big boards. It's quite antisocial. You've got like huge books up here in front of you, and you're only really kind of peeking around to see what you're doing on those battle boards occasionally. I don't know. It was fine. I think people will like it. I think it's not really going to stand the test of time as far as Lord of the Rings games go. You have a lot of things to choose from.
Yeah, there's a lot of Lord of the Rings options out there now, and I don't see Seven Wonders Dice getting suggested a lot either. So
yeah, and I think that's the way it's going to go. Like, you've already got Hobbit there and back again for a Lord of the Rings roll and write. This one's much more directly confrontational. Circle of Conflict. See what they did there, but I don't think it's strictly a great game or a great example of the genre. Let's put it that way.
Well,
it is a fine game.
Let's say if you were interested, check out Seven Wonders Dice.
It's on Board Game Arena. You can play a game and
see if you like that. Minutes. If you quite like that, this might be a nice step up.
It's a step up.
Better theme, but you have to like Seven Wonders Dice first.
Agreed. Anyway, that was good. I like that the whole little Hobbit area as well for all the Lord of the Rings games. Played trick taking game. I'm going to be playing that this weekend. And what else is there? Fate of the Fellowship. Don't like that either.
You didn't like that. I quite like that, and that's been a huge hit in one of my local clubs.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah, it's
no accounting for taste.
Well, I think to an extent also it was the solo mode. which you described, and I thought, and I largely agreed with you on that, sort of does away with the core dilemma of the game, at which point there's not much game left. Whereas I think the multiplayer aspect of it is part of what makes it. So there's that. I'm gonna talk about something coming to crowdfunding next month, or maybe in a month and a half. This is Siege Perilous, designed by Ivan Alexiev and Brian Saiba. This will be published by Plate Z, and the artist is Jay Johnstone. This is a open world sort of sandboxy adventure game set in the near to reality version of Arthurian legend. So very, very, very medieval England with, you know, the little quirks that come along with that, like shapeshifting Merlin. This is very, very reminiscent of stuff like Western Legends and Outer Rim, and to a degree the Firefly board game, which I think is just called Firefly the board game, and a little bit of Zia as well. So I think if those are in your wheelhouse and you like the Arthurian legend setting, definitely take a look at this when it's coming to crowdfunding. If you don't like those games, then this is not for you. It won't do anything for you. If you're very into Arthurian stuff, this might do something for you, because there are the two things I'll mention. One is that it's very conscious of its theme. So it's got lots of sort of story cards, event cards. If you played the Outer Rim expansion, which I've forgotten the name of, but the expansion for the Outer Rim, it added in these sort of narrative cards that you had to go through. I mean, there were narrative cards in the original Outer Rim as well, but these ones had sort of steps that you were following. And this sort of has quests that do a very similar thing, and they're based on the Arthurian legend. And you're sort of a knight from an unknown house wandering around medieval Britain and looking to make your name and looking to amass chivalry and strength. So I think you're working on your sort of physical aspects, and you're working on your emotional aspects as well. And these stats are going to be tested over the course of the game with lots and lots of dice rolls to resolve things. You know, so you're really just wandering around, doing stuff, rolling dice, maybe doing some more stuff. And that's that. Now, what I will mention is that all of the art is done by Jay Johnstone, who is being picked up because they do medieval art, and they paint it all, and they do it in the medieval style. And for this game, all of the art that's been done has been actually painted and then scanned into the game. And I understand that many of those paintings will be available as part of the crowdfunding campaign, which I think is really awesome. So I love that, and I think that's really cool. And this is not really my sort of game. This sort of game has to do a lot of heavy lifting to get me into it. I love these games in theory, and in practice, I find they're often quite imbalanced. Things that are good to do are not necessarily fun to do, and they go on too long, and there's too much downtime. I've kept around Star Wars Outer Rim. That's the only one I've kept. But so I'm not sure if this is really one for me. I went to check it out because I like the Arthurian legends. I like the setting, and I thought the art was very nice. Now, it is a very particular presentation, by which I mean the board is very busy. So I do suggest taking a look at it, but, see if you like the style. I personally did like the style. I thought it looked great, but I can understand people having issues with readability, if you're sort of minimalist, if that's your preference. But anyway, if you're into those things, go check out Siege Perilous.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know it was that kind of game, but I think it looks pretty sweet with the medieval art style. I'm not against those sandboxy type games. I obviously do own Firefly. I enjoyed Zia when I played it. Didn't hate Outer Rim a couple of times I played it. But it is, is it every problem you have with it? Yes, like Firefly does take too long. Firefly does not have a really tight core mechanism that drives the game along and quite the right. You have to enjoy the story, right? You have to enjoy the being there with other people, to be fair. So this kind of goes against a lot of what I like in games, and I think, Firefly, the only one I've got, the themes does everything for it there, right? Because the game is not a tight game. The game is not a... Don't really know how to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I
do enjoy it.
I think sort of it's hard to balance in these sort of sandboxy games the very core premise of a sandbox, do what you want, with, we need a purpose for the next few hours, right? We need something to... We need to have some kind of purpose. And so you can go the Western Legends route, which is just kind of like, you do all these random, Wild West things, and they're worth points. And the sort of the core problem we had with that, you can see it in the series on the channel, was that, like, if you just let someone ranch cows for the duration of the game, then they'll just win on points. And that sucks. Whereas, like, you can go off and do all of these fun things, with like gambling and dueling, shoot out at the OK Corral. That's way more fun, but it's not really, doesn't really get you anywhere, like, I find that, and I'm kind of with you. Like, I do just want to, like, say, well, I had fun, and that's kind of the point of it, right? Like, who cares what the score is at the end? But also, if I'm going to engage with that side of it, I need some kind of closure. I want a resolution, If I'm doing all the gambling, I want there to be like a final big gamble where I win the huge jackpot, Or if I'm doing all the dueling, I want there to be some kind of like master gunslinger I have to fight at the end or something, Or if I'm fighting a gang, I want to take down the gang boss. I need some closure. I can't just sort of like mess around with some gambling in the saloon for 2 hours and then be like, well, that was my story. And that's what I think Outer Rim did well with the expansion, was it added these sort of narrative cards where it's like, if it sort of keys into the mechanisms of the original game and says, or the core game, and says, now you're going to be doing sort of these things that you were doing in that game, but there's a little bit of escalation, a little bit of structure to it, and then there's a little bit of sort of story at the end, and also the first person to get to the end of their card is the winner, which was an improvement.
Oh, very good. I don't know. I'm tempted to at least check it out, I guess.
Yeah, I liked what we saw of it. We didn't really have enough time to get sort of into it in a really meaningful way, but and apparently there's a co-op variant as well and things like that. But we were looking at the competitive one, and we had some fun dice duels where you roll dice sort of hidden, and then you compare your results to see who won. And it's not very punitive, so it's just a bit of fun. And I got the Lancelot card, and I had to go off and find Lancelot, and that was fun. Yeah, so I think, and also Merlin. I got Merlin to be my friend, so I was stoked about that because it's a powerful card.
Something.
Yeah, and he was in bird form, so I was like, oh, it's my friend the bird. I had some fun with it. It's not my sort of game necessarily, but I do think if that is your sort of game and you like the setting, definitely check it out.
Very nice. Well, I mean, there's loads of other games I managed to play. A few I've managed to pick up. Perhaps talk about them in the future. One thing, since this will still be going out in June, one imagines, depending on Mike's editing, there is a new version of Dawn of the Zeds, if anybody's played that. So it was historically Victory Point Games, but now Blue Panther is making it, and Herman Lippmann has gone back to the drawing board, thinking the third version got a bit bloated. But anyway, they're taking pre-orders now until the end of June, and so it's not a crowdfunder, but the more pre-orders, the more stretch goals you'll unlock as to what they are putting into it. So a little bit, GMT 500, but also a little bit Kickstarter there. There is the pre-orders are up. If you're in most of the rest of the world, order direct. They have partnered with somebody in the UK. I forget who it is, Second Chance Games, I think, to who've done all their stuff for this. So I have pre-ordered it. I enjoy Dawn of the Zeds 3rd edition. Very sad that we never get the last 3 mini expansion things. But there's a lot of changes to this, including things like custom dice, changes to how a lot of the actions work. You can't push zombies back anymore, so it's going to be a constant kill them or start getting overwhelmed type game now. Been streamlined a bit, looks really nice, or at least nicer than even the third edition. I would say, is it nicer than the third edition? I don't know. I think it's got some issues still with with how it looks. It's still a sort of war game, to some of that degree. But anyway, I'm going to put a shout out there because I want to unlock more of the thing.
Very good. Well, I have the third edition. I even have all the little expansions for the third edition. Should I get this one, Barry?
It depends what you like and don't like about it. I think it'll be different enough that you could actually have both. I enjoy the third edition, the setup and teardown of the sort of the difficulty levels and what you're adding in. I find a little bit fiddly, and this one should fix much of that. So where you're doing not just the different difficulty levels, but especially the different difficulty levels where you've got, the green cards and the blue cards, the yellow cards, the red cards, what goes in, and then the different elements of the expansions where you've got those micro expansions and not just the extra characters or whatever. It all comes together. It's like a war game, right? You're looking through those books for the setup and for the playing, and you can ignore some things that easy, you can't hard. This streamlines all of it mostly, so this might be a better jumping on point, and if nothing else, I suppose you can't really get the old version anymore anyway, so you might as well get on board with this. I think it will be different enough that you could have both.
Interesting. I'll have to go have a look.
Nice one. I think my voice is just about held out, but nearly done.
All right. Well, we've got plenty more stuff to talk about. There's still a lot of stuff from UKGE, but we're going to wrap this one up here, I think. And we're going to come back in the future at some point to talk about more stuff. What we've got on the cards for the next episode is Threaded. We're going to try and play some Threaded, discuss that. That's the new game from Osprey Games, designed by Ellie Dix. And it's about threading.
It's a specific type of embroidery that I can never remember.
Yes.
And do you know what? If have you opened the box yet? Yeah. Have you cross-stitched your first player marker?
No, I've given that to my wife to do.
Okay.
I was like, you might enjoy this. But that's fun. Yes, you can do your own first player marker using the system that is the inspiration for the theme of the game. So that's really fun. And there's a little QR code you follow in the rulebook to find out how to do that if you don't know. So Threaded, we've also got Fea's Swamp on the list. I've been playing that. Barry's going to play it. We're going to talk about that because, it was one of the things we're keen to play, and I'm keen to hear Barry's thoughts on it. I've also been...
Will they like it? Who knows? Place your bets.
Place your bets. What will Barry think of Fea's Swamp? Hey, so if you're excited about either of those two, leave a comment down below. I've also got a copy of Nippon Zaibatsu here, which I played with the patrons.
Nippon was...
You like that one?
Oh, yeah.
So everybody has been telling me how good this is. I played it on TTS with the patrons when it was live on crowdfunding, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And then I didn't back it. But I managed to find a decently priced copy at the Expo, so I'm going to give that a try. And we'll come back, and it sounds like it might be getting a very good review if it lives up to the hype everyone's been giving it. And finally, one I might review if there's interest is New Order. World Order.
New World Order.
Is World Order. So do let us know by engaging with us on social media, in the comments. World Order. I've heard from the people who played it at the Expo where it was available to buy very polarized opinions. So, do you want to know the facts? I'll find them out and I'll tell you the facts. And then also my opinion.
Almost a bit Starship Troopers there. Do you want to know more?
Do you want to know more? Then engage in the comments. I understand that. But really, we are, looking to keep the podcast shorter and more focused on the stuff you guys want to hear about. So, do let us know what games you're interested in. We'll probably keep talking about the games we're interested in, but we're also interested to know what you're interested in. So do engage with us, let us know, and make sure that you follow in case we're keeping an irregular schedule. So do follow on the platform, your preferred platform. This is on YouTube, it's on Spotify, I think it's on Apple Podcasts, I think it's other places too. So do check it out. And of course, if you do like this kind of board game content, I'd love to have you on the Patreon. We do a lot of chit chat on the Discord. We organize async games. We talk about stuff. Barry's in there as well, so you can come and tell Barry his opinions are right or wrong, and he'll be forced to respond.
You can tell me my opinions are wrong, but I'm not interested.
He's not interested in changing his mind. It's set. But
you get one chance.
But do come and support us if you can that way, because that is our preferred way to fund the show. It means that we can keep bringing you this independent board game content in the way we like to do it. Thanks so much to everyone who does support the show that way. We really, really appreciate you, and we hope that you enjoyed the show. And we'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.
Bye.